Hello everyone, Jacob here. In the last 영어 구조 분석 lesson, we talked about this structure right here, to ask someone if or to ask someone whether plus a full sentence, which in Korean means 뭐뭐 하냐고 하다 or 뭐뭐 하는지 묻다. Alright? And I was explaining that we use this structure to say what someone asked someone else, but specifically for yes or no questions. And we went through a bunch of examples. But today, we're actually going to continue this lesson. We're going to talk about this structure right here, 하냐고 하다, 하는지 묻다. But I actually want to talk about how to say what someone else said when it's not a yes or no question. Okay? In fact, we're going to look at how to use it with question words. So if you look right here, you have this structure to ask someone where, when, what, who, why, how with question words. Okay, so we're going to learn how to use this 하냐고 structure with question words. Okay, and I'm kind of just going to go through each one, make one example with each question word, and that way we'll get a lot of practice and you'll be able to use this really well. So the first example, the girl asked the man where the post office was. Okay, so it's the same structure, but we're using it with this question word where. Okay, and usually when you're using where, it's to ask a question, right? And usually we say where is the post office, right? But when you're doing it in a normal sentence like this, it's just a normal sentence, not a question mark, not a question. So you have to change the order. The subject always comes first and then the verb, all right? And sometimes you'll put an object, sometimes it's a complete sentence, sometimes it's like this, it's just part of a sentence. But what's important to remember is that you do have the subject first. A lot of Korean people make this mistake. They say the girl asked the man, where was the post office? Which is wrong, okay? It's not a question, so the subject comes first. And what does this mean? In Korean, 우체국 어딨냐고 물어봤어요. Okay? Let's move on to our second example with this question word right here, when. All right? My mom asked me when I will come back home. My mom asked me when I will come back home. So here we're using it with when, and we have actually a full sentence after, when I will come back home. You don't always have a full sentence after when. Sometimes you can, it won't be a full sentence. For example, my mom asked me when the party was. You can do that. In that case, it means 언제냐고 했어. All right? In this case, it means 언제 집에 돌아오냐고 했어요. Okay? Let's keep going. Let's look at this question word. What? Okay? The waiter asked us what we wanted to eat. This is usually what happens when you go to a restaurant. You sit down and then the waiter comes and the waiter asks you, or the waiter asks us, what you want to eat, what we wanted to eat. Okay? So here, actually in this case, with what, you're always going to use what as the object. Okay? So what in this kind of sentence will always be the object. What, subject, verb. You will never have an object after here because what is always the object in this kind of sentence. Okay? And what does this mean? 뭘 먹고 싶냐고 했어요. Okay? Let's move on with who. Now let's look at an example with who. I asked Jack who was invited. I asked Jack who was invited to his party. Okay? So actually, if you know Jack is a good friend of mine, and he's having a party this weekend, and I asked him who was invited to his party. If you weren't invited, maybe you can ask him if you can come, and then we can all hang out together. Because Jack is actually a good friend of mine, but he's also a teacher at Mikasa, and he's having a party this weekend. So if you watch these videos, then you can ask him. Hey, you can say, hey, I was watching the video, Jacob's videos, and he said that you're having a party. And you can ask him, can I come? And maybe he'll let you come. Maybe not, but we'll see. I asked Jack who was invited to his party. All right, let's move on. Let's keep going. So with our next question word, why? What is my example? My teacher asked me why I was late. My teacher asked me why I was late. So again, here we're using it with this question word why, and then in this case there's a full sentence. I'm pretty sure with why there's always a full sentence after. I would have to check that, and I don't want to go too much into this in this lesson. I probably will make another video about how to use where, when, what, who, why, and how, these question words in normal sentences, not questions, all right? But I don't want to talk about that too much in this video, or we're going to get a little bit confused. So the last question word that we have to cover in this video is how. And again, I'm going to go with a question that Koreans often ask me. In the last video, I was talking about some questions that Koreans often ask me. And another one that I get a lot is this one. Koreans often ask me how they should study English. Okay? Koreans are always very curious about how to study English. Okay, so here we're using it with how. And here, actually, there's a full sentence after. But again, I don't want you to get too confused about that. I don't want you to worry too much about that. Sometimes it's a full sentence. Sometimes it's just kind of parts of sentences. But it really just depends on the sentence, on the situation. All right? So in this sentence, Koreans often ask me how they should study. And you know what I tell them? I say, you should watch my videos, and you should come to Mikasa and take our conversation classes, because that's really the best way to study English, in my opinion. So yeah, Koreans often ask me how they should study English. So we've seen now examples with each question word: where, when, what, who, why, and how. Okay? And basically it's what? 어디냐고 했어, 언제냐고 했어, 무엇냐고 했어, 누구냐고 했어, 왜냐고 했어, or 어떻게 냐고 했어. I'm not even sure if that's correct in Korean. To be honest, my Korean might not be perfect, but that's more or less the idea, right? Using this 냐고, 한냐고 structure with these question words, all right? And in English, it's to ask someone plus question words. Now, since we looked at this last example, Koreans often ask me how they should study English. I want to talk about a different way to say this, all right? And it's actually going to be kind of a little bit of a different structure, just a little bit. It's the same structure, but just a small change. So I want to talk about this last structure, and then we'll wrap up the lesson. You can say to ask someone plus a question word. A question word. I don't want to write all of them because that would take a long time. Plus, you can put to verb here, okay? So you'll actually hear this a lot. To ask someone what to do. To ask someone how to study. To ask someone where to go. This kind of thing. You'll hear this a lot. So in this last example, we saw Koreans often ask me how they should study English. We can change this. We can say Koreans often ask me how to study English. And the meaning is basically the same. So in Korean, if I were to translate this, we're combining this 한냐고 structure with 해야 돼, should, or have to. Okay, so it's actually 뭐뭐 해야 하냐고 뭐뭐 해야 하냐고 하다. Or if you want, 뭐뭐 해야 하는지 묻다. 뭐뭐 해야 하는지 뭐뭐 해야 하는지 묻다. Alright? So that is literally what this structure means, what it's used for. Let's look at just one last example and then we'll finish. Jack asked me who to invite. Jack asked me who to invite to his party. Okay, I asked him who was invited, and he said, I don't know, actually. Who should I invite? Who do I have to invite? So we're combining this, this ask someone plus a question word. Actually, let me put that in purple, since that's what we were doing before. To ask someone plus a question word, and then right after, oops, again, mixing up my colors, a question word and then to verb. All right? Jack asked me who to invite to his party, which would mean 누구 초대해야 하냐고 했어. All right? He asked me who he should invite to his party. All right? I hope you understood everything that we went over. This is going to be actually not the last, but the second to last video about this indirect speech, 간접 화법. We have one more video left and then we're going to be done, and then maybe I'll do a review lesson. Alright, so I hope you understood. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I hope you keep watching, and I'll see you next time.